Hello, everyone. My name is Nate Gillick. I am an indie fantasy author and the marketing and community lead for Laterpress. And I am a huge fan of newsletters. I love writing them for marketing. They do not have to be intimidating or scary. I think they are one of the best ways to retain the engagement and excitement of your fan base and develop reader loyalty. And so in this video, I wanted to talk about 13 different ideas for what you can talk about with your readers in your newsletters to keep them happy and interested. Idea number one, discussing your writing process. Not everybody wants to get deep into the weeds in this and explain how the sausage gets made to readers. And you certainly don't want to make things overly technical when you're describing it and making it feel more like a college course, or an English class than a letter to your readers. But some readers may find it interesting, especially if you're in a fantasy like lit RPG or fantasy. How do you design alien cultures, and how do you come up with a magic system in lit RPG? How did you design the rules of the game? Readers can find interesting little nuggets in the behind the scenes as to how stories came to life. So if you have any interesting details you want to share on that, that's a great topic to engage readers and keep them interested. Idea number two, positive reviews. I want to stress positive reviews here. You are sharing good news here with other readers that, hey, look, somebody enjoyed this book. If you have any people on your newsletter who have not purchased from you before, this is social proof to help get them hyped and primed and more interested in buying the book. For people who have already bought the book, seeing other positive reviews can put the seed in their head, hey, I read the book, maybe I should leave a review too. It is an opportunity to thank people for leaving reviews. What I would not do is use your newsletter to bully people into leaving a review, making it feel like a chore or an obligation. You want to thank the people who have put their time in to help you out, but you don't want it to feel like an obligation or make anybody feel pressured or guilted. Also, if you receive a bad review, something that's like a 1 star, highly critical, it is not a good idea to use your newsletter as a way to, dunk on a reviewer that left you a review you don't agree with. Yelling at readers, that's not good PR. People are going to be afraid to speak up or offer genuine constructive criticism if they feel like they are going to be attacked for it. It's not a good image with readers. So if you're going to share reviews in a newsletter, I would only approach that from a positive angle. Don't bring any negativity or drama into it. Idea number three, live event recaps. If you are selling books at local craft fairs or at conventions, one thing I would recommend doing is having a sign up sheet on your table. So as you're talking to people who are interested can sign up for your newsletter. That way, beyond the initial conversation or beyond the initial sale of your book, you have ways to keep in contact with those people. And if you have done an event, that is great material to talk about in your newsletter. For me, I can say, hey, I was at JordanCon and I sold books in Atlanta to a bunch of fantasy fans, and here's what I did, and here's what I learned. Or, hey, I sold books at No Brand Con in Eau Claire. Here's what I did. Here's what I learned. Share some of the interesting people, details of interesting people you met. Maybe not identifying people hyper specifically unless they consent to that, but you could just talk about, interesting experiences you had, what you learned from folks, what people really responded to. Those kind of live event recaps are a way to show, hey, I am still on the grind. I am still, trying to sell this book, make fans, meet with people. Even if it's not a progress report on a sequel, it is a way of showing people that you are very much active in the game, invested in your books, care about the reader experience. All of those are good signs and paint a picture of momentum for what is going on with your author brand. Idea number four, book recommendations. What books have you read that you liked? If people like your books, there is a good chance they're going to like other books similar. So if you've read something that you've really liked, hype up your fellow indie authors. If it doesn't have to just be indies, hype up a good traditionally published book that you really liked. Be a tastemaker for your readers. That if you become known to your readers as somebody who has great taste in books, they may want to stick around on your newsletter just to find out the next book that you're going to recommend, because they know that if you liked it, they'll probably like it too. This is another way to be a good neighbor to your fellow indie authors. You are sending love their way, perhaps without them even asking for it or without them even knowing you're doing it. You want to see other people succeed as well. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Idea number 5, character interviews. Character interviews are a fun one. It just gives you a chance to break the fourth wall if you want, or do something lighthearted. A character interview is your chance to ask questions of one of your characters and then answer them to give newsletter readers greater insights into how characters think. As your newsletter subscriber base grows and you have more active feedback, this would be a chance to invite your readers to submit questions of that character that you can then answer to make it a little bit more interactive of an experience. Now, for my series, it is in a fantasy multiverse where Earth does not exist. And rather than break the fourth wall and have me, the author, asking questions of one of my characters, I decided to go an in-universe route with it, where I have a character who is already established in the first book as someone with an interest in writing. So I use her as the interviewing character to ask questions of my other characters, and I kind of frame everything in universe that way. But I've done this with several characters now, and I've had readers submit some suggestions for each of those interviews. So that's a real fun and lighthearted way to get some additional insights into characters and some extra fun bonus content for people who are subscribing to your newsletter. Idea number 6, bonus short stories. I think the appeal from a reader perspective here is obvious. Sign up for an author's newsletter that they like, and every once in a while, a free bonus short story shows up in their inbox to get even more insights and information about the characters they love or the universe they love. That's a pure win. Now, this is also one of the highest effort ideas from the author's perspective, because now you're writing a whole short story in addition to anything else you're trying to write, and then you're giving it out for free. The reason I would recommend doing this is it's a good loyalty driver. If people know that they are going to be getting bonus stories in a world they like with characters they like, it's going to motivate them to stick around. You don't have to write one every month. Maybe offer one quarterly. Every 3 months, here's a new short story. Every 6 months, here's a new short story. But have something in there as loyalty. And you're not obligated to make those stories free forever. My attitude with any bonus short stories I include in my newsletter is that those will be exclusive to newsletter subscribers for 6 months, but I am not committed to them being free forever. So over time, as I have released more of those free short stories, newsletter subscribers get them for free and they get them for right away, but I retain the option to bundle them up later when I have enough of them to sell them as a collection on their own. So you are not, all of that effort to produce those stories is not wasted effort. It is something that is a bonus for your most hardcore followers first, and then something that you can utilize in another context later. Idea number 7, fan art or concept art. I think it's every author's dream to have books that are popular enough and resonate with fans enough that fans want to take time out of their day to draw art based on that series. And so if I received fan art from somebody, I would absolutely want to brag about that and show it off in a newsletter, though I would talk to whoever sends that fan art your way, whether it's in a Discord or a Reddit or an email, however you receive it, do contact that person back. And I would verify with them permission that it's okay to share that art in a newsletter. I would imagine most people who take the time to make fan art would be absolutely thrilled that the author themselves loved it so much that they want to share it from with all of their fans. So I think the odds of getting permission are pretty high here, but I wouldn't just do it because that sounds like a recipe for unnecessary drama if somebody feels insecure or uncomfortable about having their art displayed in that wide a manner. So just check, make sure it's cool. But if you can show off fan art, do it. If you are comfortable using AI for image generation, not everybody is, but if that is part of your strategy, you could do an image in every newsletter to say, hey, this is kind of what my idea for this planet looks like, or here's what this species looks like, to help people visualize some element of the story or the universe. Idea number 8, pets. Who doesn't love cat or dog photos? I mean, if you have an adorable pet and they've done something cute and you got a picture of it, it's pretty low risk to send a pet picture. That's not political. Nobody's going to get angry about it. If it's cute, it's fun. It doesn't reveal too much personal information about you that you'd be uncomfortable sharing in a newsletter. I think pet pics are extremely safe. People like cute animals. So if you have a pet and you have some of those photos, it seems real safe to show that off every once in a while. Talk about your pet, what you like about them. Other pet owners will probably respond to you with pictures of their own pets, and then you get more cute animal pictures. I think it's really a wholesome, harmless way to share a little bit of yourself with your audience. Idea number 9, sports. Your mileage may vary on this one. This will not work for all authors or all genres. For example, I write fantasy, again, in a fantasy universe where Earth does not exist. So it wouldn't really make a whole lot of branding sense for me to spend a lot of time talking about the Minnesota Vikings or the Timberwolves. But if your genre is hockey romance, then it would make perfect sense for you to be talking about the current NHL season. Who do you like winning the Stanley Cup? Needle fans of rival sports franchises. I mean, it's a way to show that you actually follow hockey and pay attention to it, not just writing it. And I'm not saying that anybody doesn't pay attention to hockey if that's the genre they're writing, but it's an avenue for additional a way to demonstrate additional subject matter expertise. Plus, if you write very localized content, so if all of your stories are written in New England, then there's logical avenues for New York versus Boston sports rivalries. If that could be relevant to your stories, that might be relevant to your newsletters, might be relevant to your fan base. Use it where it makes sense for your fiction and your universe. Idea number 10, good news. Be a cure for doom scrolling. Make people excited to want to open your newsletter because they will find something cool. Good news could be related to something that is a part of your own author journey. It could be the publication of a new book. It could be a major sales milestone if you feel comfortable disclosing your sales or financial data to your readers. It could be something completely unrelated to your own books. Maybe a fellow indie author achieved a great milestone, or a fellow indie put out a book, although that ties into book recommendations, or just any good news story that you heard about somebody. I saw one the other day about a 70 or 80-year-old grandmother who did Minecraft streams raising money for cancer research and cancer cures for kids. Like, that is something awesome, wholesome, positive humanity, good news that makes people happy. I would not, in my own personal author newsletter, share any bit of news that is going to make people angry, upset, depressed. People don't need your help finding that kind of information. Social media algorithms tend to reward negativity and rage bait. If somebody wants to find bad news, they can find that easy enough in their Facebook feed, scrolling YouTube. They don't need you for a new cause to be outraged or upset by. So, give them something fun, give them something happy, whether it relates to you or not. Let's put, be known as an author who's going to put a smile on your readers' faces. And I think that will keep them interested in cracking open that newsletter to hear what you have to say every time you have a new issue coming out. Idea number 11, weird news. But it's bizarre. It's something that's going to make people scratch their heads. It's going to say, can you believe that happened? It's the kind of news that invites a conversation amongst readers. Bonus points if it is somehow related to the kind of fiction you write. But I think anything that is weird and interesting is a good resource for this. My personal go-to is the AP News. They have an oddities section. And so I could go through the oddities section and find anything that is weird. For example, here's a story about a live frog found in someone's grocery store salad bag. And so I think, sharing weird news like that, it can invite conversation. Again, it's just something, it keeps the tone light, it keeps it fun, and it can stimulate interaction with readers, which is always a good thing. Idea number 12, polls. Invite your readers to vote on something. It could be the name of a minor character within the book. It could be the outcome of a specific event. It could be what short story you're going to write next if you have a couple ideas in your head that you've been kicking around. Whatever you want to solicit feedback from your readers on, you could offer them a poll. Say, here's options A, B, C, D. Tell me which one you want. Now, I would not offer a poll unless you are fully willing to follow through on the results of that poll, because nothing is going to make readers more upset faster than if you solicit their feedback, they give you that feedback, and then you go, no, just kidding, we're not doing that. Then people are going to go, why did I bother to vote in this poll? What was the point of this? That's an easy way to unnecessarily upset readers. So how I would personally approach this is not to let readers know in advance when a poll is coming. I wouldn't say, hey, next month I'm going to have a poll on X, Y, or Z. When I decide I want to do a poll, surprise, here it is in the newsletter. Let people vote. Say, here's your deadline to submit your feedback. I will announce the results and what's going to happen from that in next month's newsletter or whenever you decide, based on your own timelines. And finally, idea number 13, progress updates. When I think of public progress updates, the first author that comes to mind is Brandon Sanderson, who frequently has progress updates in videos that he posts on YouTube, sharing either the word count or the progress towards completion, because he's written enough that he has a good idea of how long a book is going to be. So he can pretty accurately say, here's how far along I am towards being done. You may not be able to be that specific as far as my book is 63% done, for example. And saying that a book is 60,000 words long, word count doesn't often mean much to readers. Authors understand word count. Readers think in terms of pages for the most part. So if you already have a program that you use for paperback formatting, for example, I use Atticus, then every time you send out a newsletter, you could create a paperback file with all of your current chapters using the settings that you want to have for the final paperback. So I just use the same settings that I used for the first one, get the page count, and then I will tell readers both, here's what the word count is. Even though that might not mean much for most people, it is the most honest and specific answer. But then I will also say, it is this many pages formatted the same way as Welcome to the Nexus was. So I'm giving people two different perspectives on how far the book is. I like to share with folks how many chapters have been finished since the last time I sent out a newsletter. I know for some people, committing to public progress reports is terrifying. Things don't always go smoothly in the author process. And, sometimes you get blocked, sometimes you're in revision hell, and things can take longer than expected. And, so every author's going to need to feel out for themselves how they describe their process and their progress. But I personally feel that accountability is important, that I need to publicly let people know, here's what I have accomplished, because it's my way of holding my own feet to the fire. That if I said I was at this point last month, I need to be further along next month. It is a way to prove to my newsletter subscribers month after month that I am putting the work in, that the book is inching closer to completion, that I haven't given up, that I haven't dropped off the map, and that more is coming. So there you have it. That is 13 different tips on what you can talk about in an author newsletter. Hopefully that gives you some ideas on how to reach out to your own readers and different topics you can talk about to make the process of writing a new author newsletter more fun and connect with readers more easily and make it feel like less of a chore. If you'd like some additional examples of newsletters, I can give you two. Click the links below to subscribe to either the Later Press newsletter, which is a more author-focused newsletter that I put out weekly, talking about different things related to the author experience and the Later Press platform. If you are looking for an example of newsletters, I have links for you below. The first is a link to my site where you can sign up for my personal author newsletter. Like I said, it goes out every month. That website is my name. It's nategillick.com. The other link will take you to Later Press to sign up for the Later Press newsletter that I send out weekly. That is not a reader-facing newsletter. That is an author-facing newsletter, but it includes additional thoughts on the author life and links to interesting news about the publishing world. Every week features a story that somebody has published on Later Press to show how other authors are using the platform. So I've got two different newsletters available for you if you are looking for more physical examples of what an author newsletter can look like. Check out those links. Do you have any tips of your own for writing newsletters? Anything you like to include in any of them? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you do to engage with your readers.